Rohit, can you go on to the next speaker? I think we'll be running short of time and there are many more topics to be discussed.
We now move on to the disc evaluation, and the first talk on interpretation of disc photographs will be by Dr. Deven Tuli, one of the most outstanding dynamic glaucoma specialists with a super way of presenting. I'm sure we'll all love his outstanding presentations. Dr. Deven Tuli, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rohit, and I'll just start with this. So just wanted to say that the residents and mainly the courses for the residents have a habit of writing just the cup straight away. But that is not correct. You should actually, if you ask me, the most important thing in the disc evaluation, it is the neuroretinal rim. So keep that in mind. It's a neuroretinal rim which is so important. And once you have focal, please look at the highlighting I'll show you. So once you have a focal loss, then that's known as notching, which I'll show you. And only when you have generalized loss of the rim, then you get what you write most commonly is the cup. So evaluation of the cup, again, we'll talk about. The vertical one is more important. Loss of RNFL, disc hemorrhage, and asymmetry. This is not the complete list, but the most important ones to take home message. So the first thing actually to look at is the disc size and the margin. And this is very easy. Usually the size of the disc, as we know, is about 1.5 millimeters. And this can be measured with the SITLAM tools, measuring tools which are available. So once you've done the disc size, the margin and the size, then the next thing to look at is the rim. So if you have the disc margin, the size and the rim dimensions, then the third thing based on the disc and the rim, then you calculate the cup. So cup actually is the third thing to look at. The vertical one is most important one in glaucoma. Keep that in mind more than horizontal. And also in the rim, we look at the color. Third thing is the RNFL, like I said, the parapapillary atrophy, PPA in short, is the beta zone, which is more important. I'll come to that later. The hemorrhages, which may be hidden and subtle, so look for them carefully. The blood vessels, and of course, the asymmetry. So the ways to examine the disc, I think the course is on imaging, so the stress is on fundus photographs. But believe me, you can do the direct ophthalmoscope, but actually, if you ask me which one to buy, the lens to buy, it should be a 90D or a 70-80 lens. 90D is the advantage is you can look through a small size pupil also. So if there is one choice, 90D is the best. So direct ophthalmoscope is to be discouraged. Some of us are actually in the habit of using only the indirect. So both these are to be discouraged. Then I've already said 90D, 70D lenses, and the fundus photographs are now possible also with the cell phone adapters. So that is so easy to do, and there is no reason not to record the fundus photograph. Yes, even the fundus cameras, which are used for the retina, can be used for this. But I am actually, because it is lot of the, it's an AIUS presentation and the whole of India is watching it, I'm not going to ask you to depend on all this. Just record it with a disc diagram. That can be easily learned. What you see, just scribble in your notes, and that is the one thing to do. This I have tried to do with the PowerPoint. You can see the disc margin, the cup, the rim, and we've shown an RNFL defect, and also the hemorrhage here. So this is, I think, very important to remember. Yes, this is probably an important tool. You can record it. You can show to the patient. It's more convincing to the patient at times, and follow up. But don't miss out on the disc drawing. Most important. So the optic disc size, I told you 1.5 millimeter is the normal one. And you can see when you compare with the small disc, this one is a small one, and the large one, in which, because in the large disc, the choriospinal canal is large. That is why it can be a large cup, which may not be. This looks like glaucomatous, but actually this is just a large cup in a large disc size. So this may not be abnormal, but I'm very concerned as a glaucoma person. I'm very concerned with the small. See, it's appearing to be a normal size cupping. The rim is appearing okay, but the space is not there in small optic nerves for the cup to enlarge. So very concerned with this because this may be actually pathological and appearing as normal. So both ways, keep that in mind. And that is why the disc size is very important to record. The OCT, which Sharmila will talk about, actually, if you ask me, one of the biggest advantages of the OCT is it tells you the disc size in actual numbers. So that is important, but if you don't have it, you can do it, like I said, with this. So the rim is it's the thickest inferiorly as seen here, followed by superior, the nasal and the temporal, which becomes a Isn't rule, but it's not always satisfied. Remember what I'm going to tell you next. In the notching of the rim, the question asked is, what is the commonest site for the notching of the rim in most glaucoma situations? The answer is the photograph on the right, this one. So it's actually the inferior part. To be very precise, it is the inferotemporal part in which you commonly see the thinning of the rim or notching of the rim, as we call it, as shown in this photograph. And if you remember what I showed you in the previous picture, that normally the rim is thickest, it's widest in the inferior part. And in glaucoma, that usually the widest part, which is usually the widest part in glaucoma, is becoming the thin. And it's most commonly in that area. So that is why when you're looking at to differentiate a glaucoma optic neuropathy versus a non-glaucoma optic neuropathy, please look at the inferior part of the disc, and inferior thinning of the rim is an important pathognomic or diagnostic feature. It helps you in the differential diagnosis also. It is next followed, this photograph is showing you, it is in the superior part is the next common. So these two, actually inferior and superior, are the widest, thickest parts, and they are the ones which are commonly affected in glaucoma. Keeping this in mind, remember this, the next photograph, that the vertical enlargement of the cup, or if I say it in the other way around, vertical thinning of the rim is very, very diagnostic of glaucoma. So you can see here that in this picture, both the inferior and the superior part are thinned out. The nasal and temporal are also thin, but they are still maintained. So vertical enlargement is diagnostic. In advanced cupping, I think this is something which we've learned from ma'am, Dr. Ramanji, that if you look at the bending of the blood vessels here, I'm asking you to look at this photograph. If you look at the bending of the vessels right here, this is the actual margin of the cup. So I'll remove that just to give you that. So the bending of the vessels defines the contour of the cup. But if you look at the actual, if you look at the pallor, the size of the cup by the pallor, it is appearing smaller. But the bending of the vessel is where the contour of the cup is, and you should actually be writing both. You should write that by contour, the cup is this much, and by pallor, it is this much. If you see this much of discrepancy. So this, in this photograph, which I've already shown you, this photograph, if you ask me, the cupping here vertical, it's almost going to 0.85 to 9 vertically. But if you look at the pallor size, just this pallor, then it appears smaller. So keep this in mind. The bending of the vessels is an important feature to look for. And same here, this is an advanced cupping as can be seen. But I just wanted to show this, that the rim has thinned out in all dimensions, inferior, superior, nasal, and temporal. So the next thing we look at is the color of the rim and pallor. So pallor can be seen in angle closure glaucomas, but if you see pallor like this, then you should always consider a non-glaucoma optic neuropathy also. So rule that out, keep the differential of glaucoma lower down the list, rule out a non-glaucoma optic neuropathy. It could be a brain occupying lesion or so on and so forth, and ischemic optic neuropathy, rule that out, and then consider an angle closure. You can have a picture like this of the rim pallor. Then the RNFL thing, see, there is a sector defect in the color photograph also, the fundus photo. But it is much better seen in this one. You can see the defect with the red-free photograph. Now, again, we are depending on the fundus photograph a lot because that is the theme of this symposium. But this you can also see, the red-free filter, with the red-free filter of the slit lamp, make a habit, use a 78D lens, which gives you a more zoomed up picture, flip to the red-free filter, and you will see these sector defects, which are so classical. Now, I'll remind you that the thinning of the rim, the commonest site for that in glaucoma was the inferior part, followed by inferotemporal. This next thing I'm going to tell you now is the commonest site for these sector RNFL defects in glaucoma. The commonest site for that is again inferior, and to be very precise, it is inferotemporal. So keep that in mind. What I told you earlier, in glaucoma, inferior part of the nerve is showing changes. Please think of glaucoma. So you can have an obvious RNFL defect with the red-free photograph. And look at this. I'll just point out, see, this is the same thing. The inferotemporal wedge shape defect in another patient, very well seen with the red-free photograph or the red-free filter. So the diffuse RNFL loss, then once you have a sector defect, in contrast, you can see it nicely, which I showed you in the previous slide. But look at this. The best, see, the normal RNFL is seen here in between the blood vessels with these bright striations. Also seen in this, with the red-free photograph, the bright striations in the vicinity of the blood vessels. And you can see in the glaucoma, these striations in between the blood vessels are missing. So that becomes more of a feature of diffuse RNFL loss, which is when it is there all 360 degrees. And the same thing can be seen. The striations are lost here in between the blood vessels in the red-free photograph. So make a habit of this. I know a lot of our residents are not doing this. It's very easy to look at RNFL defects and RNFL loss. You don't need fundus photographs. Yes, with the slit lamp also possible. Now, the parapapillary atrophy is becoming of a lot of importance in the last 1 decade because what we have now defined, there are other zones also now defined, but just for easier comprehension today, the alpha and the beta zone. And which one is more important in glaucoma? Please remember it is the beta zone. And the beta zone, why? Because actually what it is, beta zone reflects the atrophy of the deeper layers of the retina, which are in the vicinity of the choroid, the deeper layers of the retina. That is what the beta zone is. And why it is important, beta zone more than alpha zone, is because it is more common in glaucomatous. The alpha can be seen also in normal eye. So that is why we pay more attention to the beta zone. And because beta zone is so important in glaucoma, I have a mnemonic to teach you. So the mnemonic to learn beta zone is the 3 B's, B's as in B. 1 B is the beta, the name. The second B is because it is dangerous, it is more likely to be glaucoma. So the second B becomes beware. And the third one, it is the one closer to the disc. As you can see, margin, it is closer to the disc margin. The alpha one is away from the disc margin. So the third B is besides the disc. So the third B of beta zone is besides. So the 3 B's are beta, beware, and besides. Remember this, the deeper atrophy such that the choriocapillaris become easy. Now that was in the previous picture. This was a more diffuse one, but I'll show you the once you have it in the early stages. The common location, I'll remind you, for the notching of the rim was inferior. Also for the RNFL defects was inferior. Now the third thing to remember for your exams is even the typical location, the common location for the beta zone is the common one in glaucoma is again the inferior part or the inferotemporal part. In fact, so much so that a large beta zone will correspond to a thinner rim. It will correspond to a corresponding sector RNFL defect. So all these are interrelated. Inferotemporal part common, inferior part common. Then the hemorrhages can be obvious or they can be hidden. They can be subtle, like I told you. So they mean that the glaucoma process is active. That means you may need to lower the pressure further. And this one is, at the disc margin. So it may be hidden in the rim, the color of the rim, if it is pink and healthy. So this one is actually, I'll just remove that arrow. So you can see the disc hemorrhage, this one. Then it can be on the blood vessel, just on the contour of the blood vessel. So it requires careful examination. Or it could be as small as this one. The arrow is already there. So they require careful examination. And again, the disc hemorrhage is the commonest location for that also. I don't have to tell you the answer. Is again inferior. It is inferotemporal. So please remember this. And if you remember all that, then the last 2 slides of my presentation become easier. The disc anomalies become easier. If you remember the sequence, I asked you, I'll just come back to this. I asked you to look at the sequence. Start with the disc margin and the size, and keep that in mind. If you do that, then a staphyloma. See, actually the disc margin is this one. All this is the neighboring staphyloma. So if you looked at if you keep in mind the first point which I taught you is to look at the disc margin, then this differential, disc anomaly becomes easier to solve. Also, we have said the disc margin. See, it's like a tilted disc, and you can see a part of the disc is maldeveloped. So if you track the disc margin, which was the first point I taught you, then you know this is not a normal disc. So you look for a congenital anomaly or think of a congenital anomaly. It could be a tilted disc, which could actually manifest with a field defect also. But these are not abnormal. They can still have glaucoma, but they are not abnormal. Then the rim part. Come to the second point. The rim was the thickest inferior and superior. In fact, we said that the temporal rim is not much affected, or it may be affected only in advanced glaucoma. In this, which appears to be an optic pit, you can see the thinning is only in the temporal part, next to the macula. But the inferior part of this is still, the inferior rim is still thick, the superior rim is still thick, it's still maintained. So if you keep that rule of mind that inferior is affected most, then you know this is temporal was affected. You have to think of something else. It could still be glaucoma, but think of something else. If you look at it carefully, this was an optic pit. So these, if you keep that sequence in mind, and this was a sequence. Disc margin, I'll quickly repeat that. And Chitra ma'am, this is the last slide I have. The disc margin, always look for that. Then the disc size. Then you define the rim dimensions in all the 4 quadrants. Then look at the rim color. Then the RNFL defect, followed by the parapapillary atrophy, the beta zone. And then you look for the blood vessels and the disc hemorrhages if there are any. And lastly, you look at the asymmetry. So these are the important ones. This is not the comprehensive list. There are some soft signs which I purposely avoided just to keep the duration of the talk which was given to me. This is a classical glaucoma picture, and there's a large parapapillary atrophy all around is typical of glaucoma. And based on all this is what you have, the DDLS scale. And this is available on the internet. I've taken, in fact, from the ResearchGate site. And it is based on what I've just taught you, the 6 or 7 important points. So there's a table which you can see, and table is based on those points. Thank you very much to Dr. Chitra, Rohit, and AIOS for including me in this. Sunil, can you just stop the screen share, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Devan. You had described it in great detail. I would have had some questions for you, but I think we are running late. And since you have discussed every point so well, I think the questions have to be missed now.
No problem.